Hey there, it's Phil. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm here with Christian Taylor.
Hey, Phil.
Are you going to wear red for all of December?
I might, because it is, the Christmas month.
December. It's Advent. Christian is in Christmassy red, and guess who's back?
Skye!
A fuzzy imposter.
Yes.
Why the facial hair?
I actually grew it on the flight home. It was a very long flight. I didn't shave for a couple days, and then my daughter was saying, "You should shave in a goatee." So I just did when I came home.
It's handsome. I like it.
It's a lot more gray than it used to be. I did this like 4 or 5 years ago, and there's a lot more white hair in there.
Yeah, it's funny though. You can slip over the line into Bond villain pretty easily.
I can, yeah. Somebody called me Sinister Skye. When I had facial hair. Yeah.
How long was that flight?
Well, the last leg was 15 hours.
Oh, my.
But then we, altogether, it was like 20 something. I calculated in the month of November, I spent 52 hours and 6 minutes in the air.
Oh, my word.
That doesn't count layovers. So
Oh, my
it was
word.
a whole lot of flying.
Wow. Okay. I have to sing the theme song twice because I forgot to sing it
No,
last
please don't
week.
do
You
that.
really don't.
Just once
Now,
will
I had
do.
requests. Oh, I know what the request was. Okay, the new VeggieTales show is up on Netflix. We'll talk about that a little later. But somebody said you need to sing the theme song as Mustache Bob. There's an episode where Bob grows a mustache for a karaoke contest because it gives him confidence. And then he sings.
That explains my facial hair.
Yeah, you're supremely confident today. But see, if you do the whole goatee thing, then doesn't it just make you evil? Make you sin?
Well, you've had yours for
me.
quite a while.
I know, I've balanced it out because it's been so long that I've been able to sanctify my goatee. But your goatee is fresh, like it's still steeped in original sin. That's what I'm saying.
I have just come back from the Middle East. People might think I've, joined
Yeah.
some kind of
Right.
sleeper
Did you,
cell.
on your passport, are you goateed or not goateed?
I don't know.
And did they look at you twice?
I think I am not goateed.
Say, wait, are you coming back to the U.S. evil?
On my
And where
driver's
have you
license,
traveled?
I'm goateed. Whoops, sorry.
Why do we
Really?
care about this?
Yeah. See, I'm goateed there, but that was years ago.
So I'm gonna.
That looks really sinister.
Yeah, that's.
Look at this.
That's
Look how
my
evil.
Al Qaeda card right
Oh
there.
yeah, that's gonna get you in trouble.
Yeah,
I need to sing the
Okay.
theme song.
Mustache Bob.
I need to sing the theme song. Mustache Bob is kind of Bob with a little Elvis
Okay.
in him because he sings a song in VeggieTales in the House called "Mustache, mustache now," but it's Bob. It's kind of odd. So, but he turns into kind of Elvis Bob. So. Where does this start?
Hey, it's a podcast.
Hey, it's a podcast. What do you know? Hey, it's a podcast, and we got video. Hey, it's a podcast. So land in here. The Vischer podcast starts right here. And we'll talk to Skye, because he's back.
Hi, Elvis Bob.
And Christian, too.
It's Mustache Bob. Hi.
It's Mustache Bob. Thank
Whatever.
You. Yeah. But we got no guests. No one's here for you. Hey, it's a podcast. So land in here. The Vischer podcast starts right here. The Vischer podcast. Mustache starts right here. Okay, that was Mustache Bob.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That was a special request.
Yeah.
I'm trying to meet the needs of our listeners.
I love our listeners.
Yes.
They've been really good to us lately.
We haven't recorded a podcast in 3 weeks because we recorded 3 in 2 days with our 3 guests.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, it was No Sky November.
Yeah, it was No
We had to
Sky
do something.
November, and it was so unbearable for us that we just had to get it over with. It's like if you find out you have to have all your wisdom teeth taken out, and they say, do you want to do like 2, and then a couple weeks later do the other 2, and you say, no, let's get it over with.
Yeah, because you guys had all your wisdom extracted from the podcast. So I left.
Oh, did I walk into
Yeah,
that?
you did.
Holy smokes.
Well, it is true.
Okay, Skye, in a nutshell, you spent, 3 weeks traveling?
Yeah, about a little over 3 weeks.
What were the highlights? What did you learn
Oh,
about
my
South Africa
goodness.
and India and your children being exposed to all of the above?
I've learned that when you boil and grill a sheep's head, you remove the brain and wash the outside of the head with the brain. That was great. It was a brainwashing.
That was Julia Child's recipe,
That's
wasn't
right.
it?
Yeah, no,
That's-
we were in a township near Cape Town, and they call them smileys because when you boil a
Call
sheep's
what Smiley?
the sheep's head, when you boil a sheep's head, it gets a grin on its face.
Come on.
I'm not kidding. I have pictures, and so they call them smileys.
That's profoundly disturbing.
Yeah.
So why was
Have
this
they ever
happening?
tried it?
Well,
with
they eat
people?
'em. They
Do
grill
people
'em and
become
you-
smiley when you boil their heads?
I don't. We could try it.
Okay, what
No,
part
let's
do
don't.
they eat?
I didn't actually see the consumption. I saw the
Yeah.
preparation. Apparently, like the cheek flesh and the eyeballs and all whatever is on the head there. It was really quite fascinating. But it was great watching my kids watch this happen in front of them.
I bet.
Yeah.
Any nightmares?
No.
Okay.
Anyway, Cape Town, if for those who don't know, it's just one of the most beautiful places in the world. I mean,
Yeah.
it's stunningly beautiful.
Is it on mountains or surrounded
There's
by
mountains and ocean, and
Oceans.
there's baboons stealing food off our plates.
That's
and
beautiful.
Yeah, it was great. So that was great. And when I was in Cape Town, I was teaching a YWAM group for that week, and the folks there, some of them were listeners. Great group of people, really
And you
hospitable.
had podcast fans show up.
We did have podcast fan show up. I spoke one night in Musenberg, which is near
Musenberg?
Musenberg.
Okay.
It's right on the coast. If you ever watch Discovery Channel, like Shark Week.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
religiously.
Where the
Yeah,
sharks jump.
where they jump
Seal
out. That's Seal Island. That's
Yeah,
right
yeah,
off
yeah.
the coast of Musenberg.
Oh, wow, okay.
And like Fishhook Beach, we went there, which is where all the shark attacks happen, and we're like, oh, is someone gonna die? But
You're so morbid.
yeah.
And turn into a smile.
So anyway, one night I spoke in Musenberg for a couple hundred people, and a number of folks came up to me who are big podcast fans, and some of them were there just because I was speaking, not connected to.
Thanks,
ministries.
guys.
Yeah, and they gave me
That's
gifts, and I
awesome.
brought back.
Yes,
and notes
thank you
and-
very
Oh, yeah.
much for those
So,
gifts.
we
That
got
made my
gifts.
day.
It was
got gifts. Thanks for
incredibly
the gifts.
surprising and wonderful to find fans of ours on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then India,
Then we went to India because why not?
because
'Cause your family is
Yeah,
there.
I have a lot of
Dude.
family in Mumbai, so it was the first time that my kids were able to go and see where their grandfather grew up, and my dad was with us, and we actually stayed in the home that he grew up in, and cousins and aunts and uncles and all kinds of distant family that after a while I told my kids, just call everybody aunt and uncle and you'll be fine. But it was just a great time. My brother, who lives in California with his family, met us in Mumbai, so we were all together.
Meet Me in Mumbai.
Yeah.
Remember that movie? It was
No.
Cary
So
Grant and-
here's
No.
something that surprised me. It's been 13 years since I've been back to Mumbai.
Yeah.
And I was incredibly surprised at how different it was.
Really?
Yeah. It was a lot cleaner, a lot fewer beggars on the street. I mean, it's still crazy. I think it's the most densely populated city in the world, so there's a ton of people there. But it was cleaner. The cars changed. It used to be all these little kind of junky cars, and now there's Mercedes everywhere and BMWs. I saw a Lamborghini on the road.
Wow.
And the airport, holy cow, the airport in Mumbai used to be
Is it new?
it used to be horrible.
Yeah.
Like LaGuardia horrible. Kind of like bad.
Not like that.
We just insulted
and
our New York.
I know. It
fans.
was that's the bad airport. The new airport, it is honestly the most beautiful airport I have ever been to
More than Dubai?
anywhere in the world. Yes.
More than Dubai?
Yes.
Mumbai was more
Wow.
beautiful
It was
airport than Dubai?
insane. It was gorgeous. So
Wow.
it's like this country is really on the move.
Sounds like they've had a lot
Or
of
at least wants
cash
to give that
infused into
impression.
the economy.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the other thing that I came away with. I was just talking to a friend about it today. Both in Cape Town and in India, this is not going to go over well with some of our listeners.
Uh-oh.
But when I used to travel to India, especially when I was younger, it was always, oh, you're from America. Tell us what's going on in the U.S. What's kind of the hot trend? What's this? What's that? And everyone
Right.
had this kind of aura around America. And now the vibe I got, like from one of my younger relatives who's approaching college age, he's saying he doesn't want to stay in India. I said, oh, you're going to come to the U.S.? He goes, no. Why would I want to go to the U.S.? You guys just shoot each other all the time. And
He actually said that?
He actually said
We
that.
shoot each other
He
all the
actually
time?
said that. He
we
wants
don't just shoot each other. We also chokehold each other.
that happens as well. So he wants to go to Australia. Uh-oh. Phil's computer is beeping. He wants to go to Australia or to the Middle East or England, somewhere else. But there's like this anti-American view out there. And I found this in South Africa too, where even some of the Christians there were looking at me like, can you explain to me why the Christians in America are so weird?
What does that mean?
Well, that we fight about things that are ridiculous. There's no need to. That you're making problems where it's unnecessary. That it was a fascinating glimpse. And I've traveled internationally my whole life, but for the first time, I think in a heavy dose, I got this very bizarre sense that people are totally over America. Like it doesn't carry the cachet it once did. And my dad showed me the school where he went to elementary school and high school in Mumbai, and right across the street, there used to be the American Cultural Museum, which is where he would go during recess or after school and listen to Elvis Presley records and the Beatles and kind of all this American culture stuff, and where he kind of first got the idea in his head that I want to go to America. And this is in the 1950s and 60s.
Okay.
And now, like, no one...
Is it still there?
No, it's gone. But when I talk to some of the young people, there's a sense of, well, why do we need America? Because we have our own popular culture here, and we have tons of
Right.
opportunity here, and we don't need American music and movies and all that, because it seems like the world's just become a lot less it's more egalitarian, where it isn't like America's leading the way culturally or with democracy or it was kind of depressing, to be honest with you.
So we gave them the internet, and now they think they can get along without us.
Something like that. But there was just a sense of, oh, America, who cares?
Well, Americans are beginning to think that. I hear there's a huge movement for Americans to move to South America.
Yeah, I've seen some of that too.
I'm going next week.
Really?
I'm moving to South America.
Yeah.
Do they just mean like the South?
No, they. Ha 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 ha. Very funny.
Because that's the
Okay.
real America.
So the highlight of India?
highlight of India was just hanging out with family. You know, there's a lot of.
Did everyone get along? Were there any fisticuffs?
No, I think everyone got along pretty well.
And how'd your kids do?
They did great. I mean, everyone stayed healthy, which was a blessing, and the kids just loved it. I think they loved having servants. So for 10
Who
days in
wouldn't?
India, you know, we stayed with my great aunt and uncle and some of my other relatives, and they all have servants over there. They ring a bell, and in comes your chai or whatever. And at one point, my wife Amanda said to my son, "Wouldn't it be great to have a bell?" My aunt would carry around this little button that she would just push whenever she wanted a servant. And my wife said to my son, "Wouldn't it be great to have a bell like that?" And Isaac said to her, "Yeah, so I could call you." Because, I mean, you get really, really spoiled where you have a driver that takes you everywhere. No one drives themselves. Everyone has,
Not no one.
well,
But
among
the
upper class.
upper middle and upper
Yeah,
class.
I mean, it's because the traffic is so horrible, no one wants to drive. So everyone
So
has
what you're
drivers.
telling us is that your family are among the wealthy.
There they are, yes.
That's good to know. That
Yeah.
tells us something about you.
Why?
That you've got blue blood. You're
That
a
you were
little-
cast out.
That's why you carry yourself with sort of an aristocratic
Oh, you think?
air. Yes.
It's kind of ironic, though, that you're in America, this privileged, prosperous country.
Would you be more privileged if you were living in India?
If I was
you're-
part of one of their households,
Because
yes.
you're barely getting by.
Yeah, over here I'm not.
You're still looking for a job.
Yeah,
You're closer to being a servant than having a servant.
That's true for sure. But when you have a country of 1 point something billion people and they all need jobs,
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
pretty-
lot easier to get help.
Pretty. Oh,
And
if
it's
only
probably
I
a lot
could
cheaper.
Find someone to wash my car. Oh wait, there's 500 million people willing to wash my car. Okay, you didn't see Interstellar. You were supposed.
haven't yet.
You were supposed to see Interstellar because this whole show was going to be an hour-long discussion of the theology of Interstellar, and now we've got nothing to talk about.
Well, I'm going to California next week.
Nothing.
I may have some downtime. Maybe I'll catch it in California.
Good,
Okay,
because I'm ready to talk about
can
it.
we count on that? Christian saw it with her
did.
son.
I did.
Her son had a quasi-spiritual experience.
He did. It was quite interesting. I'm
I'm
still
intrigued.
trying to find out what exactly it was that.
Yes, what
but
was-
when it ended, he sat there very quietly, didn't want to get up, and he said, "God wanted me to hear this." I was like, "Really? What did you hear?" And he said, "Whatever happens, will." And I was like, "What?"
It sounds like Yoda. What is?
Well, they talk a lot. The daughter is named
He's named
Murphy,
after Murphy's Law.
and so they talk a lot
Not Murphy
about
Brown?
that.
no, Murphy's Law.
But I think it was more than that because he was very repentant and contrite for the next, 2-3 days, and whatever it was,
It's not really a theme of the film.
no, it
So
isn't.
you didn't have that response, Phil?
No. My response was, why the heck would you do that to your daughter? That was
Yeah.
my response because I'm a dad. So it's like somebody else can fly the darn ship. Take care of your
But
kids.
okay, from
you
what I've seen from the
loser.
previews, though, doesn't he want to save his daughter by going and finding this other world to inhabit?
Assuming that he is truly the only person on Earth who can fly a spaceship. Yes.
Right.
Which was just not established at all.
Well, wait a
why he
second.
would
We're
be the
going
only
too
person.
far down this road.
Yeah,
Let's
I know.
pause and we'll.
Because you haven't seen it yet, so go
Yeah.
see it. But I just got annoyed. Because it seemed that part seemed like an emotional contrivance. We really want to make you feel about something other than just space.
Yeah,
so
you got to
let's-
personalize it.
Yes, so let's make a single, because he's a single dad. So they couldn't even find a dad who had a wife,
So who took care of her?
Grandpa.
Oh, well.
Grandpa.
John Lithgow.
But it was John Lithgow, and I don't think he's that great.
He's usually a villain.
Yeah, I know. Would you leave your kids with John Lithgow?
Definitely not.
I don't think so. That's where it goes off the rails.
Yeah.
So anyway, and his kids don't do well. See, that's the thing. They don't do well while he's
But
gone.
that's a very Christian story, which we've talked about on this podcast before. The sense of mission and calling that
Giving
may
up your children.
Yeah, that you
sacrificing
sacrifice your children
on the
for-
altar of impact.
Exactly.
That's exactly what happened in this
That
movie.
is exactly what happened.
There you go. Now I don't need to see it.
Yeah, yes, you do.
Okay. So the news we're going to talk about.
Let's hear it.
We're going to talk about a couple of things because we actually got a ton of interesting mail over the break. I'm not sure why.
They're on vacation. They have more time to write.
Pie and then said, I'm going to write a letter to Phil and give him my thoughts about the podcast. So we got some good mail. But also, because it was Thanksgiving, it was the premiere of the new VeggieTales show that I've been doing voices for the last 6 months, 9. I even forget how long, 9 months, something like that. VeggieTales in the House premiered on Netflix the day before Thanksgiving. We'd already talked about the new characters because they'd been getting
Irises.
They've been getting irises. They've been having LASIK, character by character, and getting iris implants. But not everyone was responding favorably to the new characters. We talked about that already and what my role has been and how that came about. So the show, and I told people back then, just wait until you see the show. It's a different show. It's not Phil Vischer's VeggieTales. This is Doug TenNaples' VeggieTales. It's a new show. So reserve judgment until you've seen the show. They've seen the show. A lot of people aren't thrilled. Kind of had the same reaction as they did to the characters. You've changed everything.
And you're gauging that from Facebook postings?
Facebook posting and also the reviews on Netflix. Because it's on Netflix and you can leave reviews on Netflix. What is interesting, though, and this is what I wanted to mention because I think it's kind of an accomplishment, is some people like the show and say, hey, our kids like it. They're fine with it. We like the old veggies. We like the new veggies, whatever.
I'm not in that camp.
We're not reviewing the show.
Sorry.
We're not reviewing the show. And the reason I'm not reviewing the show is because the show is made by a lot of friends of mine. So I'm not going to review it.
You can't be unbiased.
I'm not unbiased, but I'm also not. I don't critique the work of my friends. It's just not
professional,
not very healthy. But there are conservative Christians who are giving it 1 star out of 5, and there are atheists who are giving it 1 star out of 5. And I think that's saying something.
That is interesting.
If you can make something that those extremes both don't like, you've really done something special.
Well, I think an atheist giving it 1 star is a positive thing. Like that to me, I was like, oh, maybe we found some common ground in nothingness.
Is no stars an option?
No, I don't think no stars is an option. I didn't.
Don't you think they wouldn't comment at all?
Well, here's the deal. Here's why people are commenting. On the Christian side, it is you've changed VeggieTales too much. Bob isn't Bob, Larry isn't Larry. Their voices. Too many voices are different. There's not enough Bible in it. Just an occasional Bible verse, and then the attack on God made you special at the end. It's not VeggieTales anymore. You changed it too much. 1 star. It's not Christian enough. It's not biblical enough. Several atheists have reviewed it and said 1 star. Nowhere in the description does it say that this is a religious show. My kids watched this, and I noticed after they watched it that it mentioned God. That should be a warning in the description. Somewhere in the description.
Warning.
Should be
may contain God.
Yeah,
or was manufactured in a plant that also had God.
Yeah, so there are, and I think it's a valid complaint.
So the atheists are saying there's too much God, and the fundamentalists are saying there's not enough God.
Yes. There's not as much God as there used to be in VeggieTales.
Right.
So clearly you're selling out by reducing the amount of God to appeal to a wider audience. Even though the amount of God is reduced, it's still present enough for the atheists to say, hey, because the description of the show says it's a show that teaches life lessons. And so they say, hey, I want my kids to learn life lessons. They watch it, and suddenly there's a Bible verse.
Yeah.
Say, whoa, you need some kind of it. And I agree. I actually agree. In the description, it should say something like, this is the #1 Christian kid show of all time.
But that seems like a pretty easy thing to remedy because you just changed the description on the Netflix menu.
That would be an easy thing to remedy.
Yeah.
The question is,
at least for the atheists.
The question is, does a company like DreamWorks want to actually say, we make religious materials?
Well, if they didn't want to say that, why did they buy Big Idea?
They didn't buy Big Idea. They bought Classic Media, which has about 200 characters.
Then why did
they didn't have to choose to develop it?
Yeah,
because it was popular.
And I have to confess, I haven't watched any of the new stuff.
Yeah. Boy, you are really not coming through this week. What?
I have been traveling overseas,
you're
my
back.
friend. I've been jet lagged. But does DreamWorks logo and identity appear anywhere on this stuff?
No. Big idea and Netflix original.
Yeah. So what's the big deal?
So no one is really blaming DreamWorks.
Yeah.
Some are mad at Netflix. Netflix, you ruined VeggieTales. Netflix didn't have any say in the creative part of it. It's kind of interesting. I think there should be, though, some kind of, because this goes back to, like, I really dislike the kind of child evangelism that appears to be sneaky.
The bait and switch.
Yes, the bait and switch. Hey, we're having a backyard summer party for the kids of our neighborhood. Parents, so send your kids. And then once they're there, hey, let's tell you a Bible story.
Yeah.
Or hey, it's soccer camp. And, you better notice that it's at a church, because if you think it's just a soccer camp, it's not just a soccer camp. And I don't like anything that tries to kind of sneak around a parent to get to their kids without them really knowing what they're signing up for, without the parents. And I think there's a part of evangelical history where we thought, yes, but getting to those kids is so vital that we have to do it in any way we can.
Yeah, but okay, in the current case with the new VeggieTales.
Yes. That's not it.
Well, yeah, because God isn't mentioned anywhere in the description. So you're like, well, maybe some non-believers will just stumble into VeggieTales.
Yeah.
But then once you're in, it sounds like there's not that much Christian content to begin with.
It's not that much.
It's not a hard sale here.
No, it's not.
But what I do think is interesting is that it sounds like, even though there is a Bible verse there, that does not a Christian show make.
Depends which Bible verse.
Depends on how you define Christian show.
It's from the book of Enoch.
I
Then no.
See, I wrote the Pirates Who Don't Do Anything movie, and that made a lot of people cranky because we didn't talk about God directly, because it was an allegory.
Right.
So it was a bit parabolic instead of being literal. God says
when you're dealing with conservative Christians, you need to be literal.
But they love Narnia because everybody knows.
But he was Anglican.
We don't even know that anymore. We've forgotten. We've forgotten he was Anglican.
We don't even know who he is.
The problem is you had already established that VeggieTales is literal.
That's the problem.
Right.
VeggieTales was not a world of allegory.
No.
Narnia is a world of allegory.
Even though it was a world of vegetables.
So I tried something different.
They were literal vegetables.
Since this is going to theaters, why don't I try something allegorical and see if that works better in theaters? Because if you remember, Jonah had just lost every penny we invested in it.
Right.
And was fairly literal. So I thought, okay, maybe that doesn't work in movie theaters. Maybe that's better for the DVDs. Let's try something allegorical that's just more fun, but still has a lesson for Christians. And then that was like, no, that's not what VeggieTales is. VeggieTales is literal. So, and that's when you change the expectation.
Right.
It's like, whoa, what did you just do? This is not, if Crest toothpaste suddenly tastes like watermelon when it says mint on the front, people are mad.
Right.
Hey, it's happened plenty of times. And people you remember the Crest riots of 1935? People don't like it when you mess with their stuff.
Okay, so
what's interesting is how many people feel a sense of ownership of VeggieTales and feel like their stuff has been messed with.
And that reminds me of George Lucas with the prequels.
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
You messed with my childhood.
Yeah.
That's exactly what some people are saying as they review the new show. You just ruined my childhood.
Well, what's interesting, I'd like to know, among new viewers who have discussed it, like, it sounds like to me the people that grew up with VeggieTales are now college age and above, right?
Yes.
So does that mean 30-somethings have their
20-somethings and
20-something,
They're
30-something?
not watching the new stuff, are they?
What?
The kids who grew up on VeggieTales, who are now college age and above, they're not watching the new series. Aren't they trying to get new families and people with the new series?
If they have kids, it's their kids watching it. And they're saying, whoa, this is not the VeggieTales of my childhood.
But
and
wasn't that kind of the point? They wanted to jazz it up a little bit?
I don't know.
Put mustaches on them?
No. No one, I have never heard anyone say what the point was, except that Netflix was funding a new show.
Oh.
So I don't know what but my wife, I almost said my mom. I do not think of my wife as my mother. Can I just be clear about
I
that?
call my dad my husband's name, which is terrible.
All right.
Oh, that is terrible.
We need a couch and a cigar.
So my wife watched a couple of them, and she just kept saying, Bob wouldn't say that. Bob wouldn't do that. That's not Bob. And if I had to say, it's not Bob, because I had that same reaction. Like the very first script I read, I said, Bob wouldn't do this, because I'm thinking I'm kind of an authority on Bob. And the response was, this isn't the same Bob. This is a different Bob. This is a Bob before he became the Bob of the old shows.
Well, is that before he became a Christian?
I'm not sure how far.
This is the unsanctified Bob.
And I thought, oh, okay.
Before God removed his irises.
I made a mental note of that as I approached trying to do Bob. This is not the same Bob. This is a different Bob. So whatever, and because I'm not familiar with this Bob, I didn't create this Bob. You
haven't even probably apparently read the backstory or anything about him at
I don't know
all.
where he came from. I don't know what motivates him. So I just read the scripts. Here's the lines. I'm doing the lines. Apparently this is Bob now. So then my wife watches them and says, Bob wouldn't say that. And I say, it's not the same Bob. but apparently people who like VeggieTales are attached to who Bob in the future becomes.
Everybody's
it's a
having
prequel.
that.
So they're attached to...
Again, George Lucas, we should have learned the lesson.
They're attached to the once and future Bob.
So who's the Jar Jar of the new series?
Jar Jar. Bacon Bill. Who hasn't actually appeared. The ones that are up right now, he hasn't appeared yet in.
So, okay, the question that I have is,
Yes.
when you have diehard fans of an old anything, they're going to get cranky about any change. So...
Yes.
So fine, there's longtime VeggieTales fans who know the series inside and out, know your characters inside, and they're not happy with the change.
Yeah.
You're never going to make them happy, probably.
Then the question is, who are you making the show
Well,
for?
exactly. So, then the question is, are there new people who are being introduced
Right, that's what I was
who are
trying to get
going,
at.
yeah, we don't really know any of the history,
But it would have
we-
to be the
we-
children. It would have to be the children, not the
Yeah.
adult.
I don't know.
grown-ups.
I think the jury is out on
The
that.
children
Right.
that are watching this new Veggies in the House won't know the difference. And
If
so
they haven't watched old veggies. But the people that are on Facebook, that are on the VeggieTales Facebook page, that have been being told to look forward to this show for the last year by Big Idea, are very familiar with the old VeggieTales, and they didn't really want it to change this much.
right.
That's what would appear to be.
Well,
the
usually
case.
very
Well, do you think? I'm so sorry. to
devout
interrupt
Christian
you.
types don't like change at all.
Oh, that is. Look at the Reformation. Look how well that went down.
It did not go down very well. So, but that
we
I'm,
worked it
my
out.
point is there. Anytime you make change, I'm a big fan of change. Generally,
Yeah.
I like change.
You're
I'm a-
wearing the same color shirt you've worn on every podcast.
I have hair on my face, my friend. I like change.
Okay. For the second time.
I'm
in
not
a
opposed to
decade.
change. That's my point. But people always get cranky about change. So I'm
Yeah.
going, well, let's just wait and see. Maybe they really did jump the shark and it was a bad move, and time will tell. But maybe they get enough of an
The
audience,
episode
a new
where
audience.
Bob Jumps the Shark hasn't aired on Netflix yet. It's like,
Well, so what happens in
17.
Netflix if a series isn't popular?
I don't know, and nobody really knows how they measure it's views.
Right.
How many people are watching it? So there could be tons of people watching it, but just the reviews aren't positive, and they'll say, well, we don't care. There's tons of people watching.
Right, because the only people who leave reviews are the diehard VeggieTales fans.
Probably.
Yeah.
And the atheists that
Right.
said, where was the disclaimer that this comes from a ridiculous Stone Age point of view on the world? Anyway, so go to Netflix, check out the new VeggieTales show. Let us know what you think. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that develops. The next DVD is Noah, and that comes out, I don't know, in the spring or something.
That's totally different, though. That's the old Bob and the old Larry.
See, that's where it gets tricky, because they've switched to the new characters.
The
In
design
the-
is new.
Yes, so it's all the new character designs, but it's not written by the Netflix writing team. It's written by, I don't even know who wrote it. I don't remember who wrote it, but it's under the direction of Mike and
This is
Chris
gonna
Wall.
be
It's a
very
little complicated.
confusing.
And Junior in Noah will still be Lisa's voice, where in the Netflix shows she's been replaced by the woman who's doing all the female voices for the Netflix
I'm
show.
trying to imagine how they did the animals.
I haven't seen anything yet.
And then is there just a lot of vegetables floating in the water? How does that work?
Yeah, it turns into vegetable soup because of the volcanic action and the flooding, and that's how God created vegetable soup.
Okay.
Ta-da! Okay. We got a lot of mail.
Yeah, what did it say?
And there's some interesting stuff. Some very interesting stuff. For example, Gabe has been keeping track of what we said we would put on a T-shirt.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm glad somebody's keeping track of
it's a
that.
pretty good list.
Okay.
I thought I would go through it. Said, every now and then you guys have mentioned random things that should be put on T-shirts. Just for the heck of it, I started keeping track. Here they are.
We should add him to our staff.
T-shirt number 1, language is liquid.
Who said that?
I don't know.
Yeah, he didn't cite who
I don't know.
the speakers were.
T-shirt number 2, rechunk your life.
That was him. That was you.
No, that was about brain. That was about neuroscience.
Right,
and
rechunking.
Rechunking. T-shirt number 3, a dream is a wish your heart makes out of fear and wrapped in bacon.
That sounds like a combination of the two of you.
I think it was. I think
Yeah.
one of us finished the line.
That was a mashup.
Yeah.
Number 4, born bald.
That's probably you
Did I say that?
commenting on
I was
Skye.
definitely not born bald. I had lots of hair.
Number 5, Jesus, take my ghillie suit.
That was you.
Don't remember
That's got to be you.
that. Number 6, I learned American history from Disney.
That was
I think
you.
that was probably me. Number 7, pot noodle love.
Hot noodle love. I must not have been here for that one.
What did we say?
I don't even know.
What could that even be about? And probably my favorite.
That's why I'm laughing about. I'm reading it already.
Number 8, the crotch wasn't invented until the 4th century.
What is that from?
I know.
You said that.
I did.
I remember
When
that.
was that?
We were talking about whether Jesus wore pants.
Oh.
He couldn't wear pants. He had to wear robes because the crotch hadn't been invented yet.
And didn't that have something to do with the glass bottom pants too?
What? Oh,
Yeah, the glass bottom pants.
Yeah, okay. Number 9, jealous of the Jews.
I think that was you.
That was
Christian.
probably me.
Number 10, we covered all the characters. I assume that had to do with the theme song.
Yeah, and that was, I'm sure, you.
And number 11, orthodoxy is in the eye of the beholder.
That sounds like you.
That won't get us in trouble.
That's deep. Okay.
Quite.
What does that mean,
He
actually?
recommends we start making, well, because everyone considers themselves orthodox.
Right.
know,
no one thinks of themselves as a heretic.
Very few people self-label as
Oh,
heretics.
right.
Very few. So everyone else is a heretic.
Actually, I can't think of anybody that would ever say they were a heretic.
Unless someone has left their belief system consciously, has rejected their belief system, and is now saying it kind of ironically.
Right,
You know,
okay.
I'm a heretic, and I'm okay with that. That's different. Okay. So
We've had a number of others I don't think he's captured. yet.
yeah, Gabe. That's not an exhaustive list.
That isn't. There were
You
some
need
in the
to
beginning.
Go back
Yeah.
and listen to every old episode. What episode are we on? Like one.
131.
Bill says this is 131. You need to go back through all 131 episodes and find
Some of my favorite were in the beginning.
Yeah,
in the very,
because
very beginning.
very early on we made somebody said something funny, and then we said we need to make a T-shirt of that.
Yeah.
So if you can find the very first reference to
Yeah.
T-shirts,
I do kind of want to wear the crotch wasn't invented until the 4th century T-shirt.
that sounds like one of those Geico commercials.
What?
Did you know you could save 15% on
Oh,
your?
did you know the crotch wasn't invented until the 4th
Yeah, and then it cuts to some kind of funny
Oh, I'm
funny
gonna.
moment.
Okay. Brian from Canada, I believe. Yes, been listening to the podcast for a while, and as a Canadian, I've been particularly interested in your opinion of the TWU law school debate. There's one point I think may be missed in this regard, the validity of a self-governing licensing organization. I wonder if the issue over the community covenant is actually just cover for the British Columbian Law Society saying, we don't want more law school graduates because that means more competition for ourselves in the job market.
Wow.
And the question is, are they rejecting any other applications for new
Sure.
law schools?
Right.
I have a feeling it's not them being self-serving as much as being politically correct and saying we now completely reject the kind of Stone Age thinking that says you can't have sex with whoever you want to, even when you're in college. That is, we have to put that behind, and we can't have lawyers who have been steeped in that kind of discrimination.
Although to his point,
Right.
my understanding, and you would probably
I was
know this
about to
better,
say.
Christian, is the market for attorneys is
There's a huge glut.
yeah, it's really
That is true.
difficult.
The market for attorneys is terrible.
Yeah.
As my brother, the head
There
of a
are
law
so
school,
many
will tell
getting
you.
out of law school that cannot find jobs.
Right.
And conversely, when my husband started, I guess it was 18 years ago, he was hired, and before he ever started, he got a raise. And then the next year, they gave him this huge signing bonus. I mean, they were just, law firms were
sounds
wooing
just like my career.
the top students. It's not like that. It's just like
Do you know what
plummeted.
happened? Do you know what happened? This is what my brother would say was
Let me
one
see.
of the
Let me think.
primary things that happened.
Obama.
Well,
The ability to outsource menial law work overseas.
really?
Are you blaming India?
My husband would say it was the tanking of the economy.
Well, but that was
later.
That was temporary, and that's come back, at least in terms of legal work.
Not in the
still-
way that firms are structuring their firm. I only kind of know his perspective from the big law firm
Right.
model, and law firms are sort of restructuring and rethinking how they're doing things and their
Right.
partnership structures
Right.
and
And
how
they've-
many they bring in.
And they've outsourced a lot of the work that used to be done by first and second year associates. So there isn't a need for as many first and second year associates, so it's harder to get your first job because you can now send that work to India.
Interesting.
And that's why they're driving Mercedes in India. They're taking our
That's
jobs.
it. I told you.
Well,
it
they're
was
not
an
actually
influx
driving
of
them.
cash.
Their drivers
Cash.
are driving them.
Yeah, see, they don't even get to drive them. That's sad. That's sad.
But it's a more pleasant riding experience.
So, when you go in the cars and cabs in Mumbai, almost every taxi cab on the dashboard has a little Ganesh. It's a Hindu god, the elephant god.
Do you see any Buddhas? Are there any Buddhas?
Well,
in
this
Texas?
was funny. I have a picture of this, but I got into one taxi with my family, and I'm sitting in the front, and they're all squeezed in the back. And instead of a Ganesh on the dashboard, the guy has Dumbo. And I laughed. I said, "What's with the Dumbo?" And the taxi driver just kind of wobbles his head like they do in India, like, "Oh," and he kind of laughed at it. He must not have been a Hindu. He must have been, but it was a Dumbo with these wavy elephant ears. It was really funny.
That is funny.
Are you sure it's not a
slightly
ganache? Because that sounds
No,
delicious.
Are you sure it's not
a Ganesh Ganesh.
A ganache
Ganop?
god?
What?
Did you ever play Ganip Ganop?
No.
No.
Do you ever? It was a game. It was
sounds
a
dirty.
game in my childhood. No, you had a little ping pong ball and you pushed buttons and it plopped the ping pong ball across a little net. So it was kind of like an automated.
Oh yeah, but I didn't know that's what that was called.
It was called Ganip Ganop because it kind of made when you push the button, it made a kunk sound.
Wouldn't you love to have been in
ka-chunk.
that marketing meeting?
Yeah, what do we call this?
What do we call this?
I think it's making a sort of a ganoosh sound. So, but on the way back, it's more of a Ganesh.
Well, in India, they're going to market it as the Ganesh Galop.
Ganesh Ganop. Okay. Kirk had questions about VeggieTales in the house. I was wondering how long it would take for someone to ask me after the show came out. Hey, Phil, my name is Kirk, and I'm 13 years old. I've watched VeggieTales since my birth in 2001. He was watching VeggieTales in the delivery room.
He's 13.
He's 13. The veggies feel like my second family. Honestly, I don't know if you're going to respond or not, so I want to let you know that I saw your podcast about how you lost the veggies, and every time you had an opportunity to get them back, something's in the way. I was driven to near tears. I'm sorry, Kirk. I didn't mean to drive you to near tears.
It was a sad story, though.
Right now, it's 10
He didn't actually cry. He was near tears.
tears. He was near tears. Maybe his little sister was crying, and he was near her. So
I don't think that's what he meant.
maybe that's what that means. Right now, it's 10:28 p.m. where I live. Oh, this is a clue. We have to put together this mystery. He's near tears. It's 10:28 p.m.
He's tired.
I'm staying up to watch the premiere of VeggieTales in the house.
Why are they premiering it that late at night?
They aren't. They just turned them on and then. Oh, wait a minute. No, they started them at midnight. That's when they come on. Is midnight. Okay. At first, I must admit I wasn't a fan of the new looks when I saw them, but they grew on me, and I think they're fine. I have a few questions for you, if you have time to answer. Since you only do voices for VeggieTales now, I'm not sure how much you know about these. First question: do you know why most voice actors for VeggieTales have changed for In the House? Sure seems as only you and Mike are keeping your voices for the characters. Yes. They had the show is actually a fairly small budget show, and they had a small budget for voice talent, so they had to have fewer people do the voices. So they have one woman who's doing all the female voices, and Junior, which is why Lisa's no longer doing Junior, and then one other guy besides Mike and I that had to do every other voice. That's why. Okay. Junior has a new voice. Petunia has a new voice. Madame Blueberry is not even French anymore. No, she took Rosetta Stone. She became quasi-British, kind of a rich English, I guess. Do you know what happened? I do. I just told you. How does your wife feel about not voicing Junior anymore? Not so happy, but that's okay. She's okay. But my next question, is Ickabeezer a replacement for Mr. Nezer? They have a similar appearance, but Rob Paulson voices him and not you. So is this Mr. Nezer with a new name and voice, or are they different? And can we expect to see that chocolate bunny-loving zucchini in there too? Ickabeezer has replaced Mr. Nezer. Mr. Nezer, as far as I know, will never appear in VeggieTales.
Well, if this is the prequel, maybe he, succumbs to the dark side later and becomes Mr. Nezer.
Mr. Nezer?
Yeah, with the deeper voice.
I thought we were talking about nationality or race. It was a racial issue.
Mr. Nezer was deemed racially insensitive because I am white and Mr. Nezer is an African-American dialect. And DreamWorks doesn't do that.
This is funny. I have never put that together.
Me either. I never thought it was.
You were white. No, I in all the VeggieTales I've listened to or watched, I've never looked at Mr. Nezer.
Said, oh, that's the black guy?
Yeah, no, I never did that either.
He's the black zucchini.
I know, and he's an authority figure, and he's wealthy, he's upper class, so he was really very trend-setting.
Did you
like
think
Bill
of
Cosby.
him as African American?
No, I based the voice off the Oogie Boogie Man from The Nightmare Before Christmas, who is obviously a bag, if you remember The Nightmare Before Christmas.
I don't.
He's just a bag that was filled with worms. He was the villain. But he was played by an African-American actor who was doing this character that is from...
But that's still a stretch to say Mr. Nezer was an African American.
I never put that together.
Anyway, that's why Mr. Nezer was taken out back and shot. See, which is kind of a bummer because technically he was the only black character on the show. And
technically, he wasn't a black character.
And now there are
he
no
was
black
green.
characters. Mr. Lunt is the only Latino character on the show. And he almost got
So
sacked,
now
too.
it is a racially insensitive
I
show.
know, and now it's racially insensitive.
How ironic.
All the voice talent are white, and so all the characters are white. Now, is that progress?
I think not.
I think not.
Anyway, that's what happened to Mr. Nezer. He was racially insensitive. Third. In the sneak peek of In the House, we are missing key characters like Mom and Dad Asparagus, the Scallions, Scooter, Khalil, and Scooter. You said Scooter twice. It's because it's 10:28. I understand. It's late. Have they been removed from the show, or can we expect to see them? Dad Asparagus shows up, but he has a new name. He's now Mike.
Okay.
I don't know how that happened. So Junior's dad is Mike.
So
I haven't seen
He's
Junior's...
a white asparagus dad named Mike.
I know. I haven't seen Junior's mom show
Is
up.
he English?
The Scallions, I think, are gone. No, he's not English. No, he's just rather typical suburban American.
They could make it a white asparagus.
Scooter is gone. Scooter's been replaced by a new cop. I forget his name. Officer Wedge or something like that. Khalil's out of there.
He was racially insensitive for sure.
Yeah, and he was played by a white guy. See, that's the problem.
You could have had me do it.
See, and this is the problem because
would have been awesome.
If you have a limited budget, you can only have, can only have this many.
If you have a limited budget, you can only hire white people. That's what you're really saying.
If you have a limited budget, you need people that can do a lot of different characters. So if you have minority character roles and they have to be played by minority voice actors, now
explain.
You know what? Let me just say,
that's a rule, right?
I have to butt in.
That's apparently a rule at DreamWorks.
I am a casting person in the voice world, and that's not necessarily true because all you have to do is adjust the budget and pay people less if you want to hire more and different people.
But you can't go below SAG minimum.
If it's a SAG production, that is correct.
Yeah, it is. And they're already at SAG minimum.
Okay.
For people who don't know what SAG minimum is,
it's
Screen
a
Actors
union.
Guild.
Yeah, it's a union.
it sounds like a problem that obese people have.
until you hit SAG maximum.
Yes.
And then you need a wheelchair.
Or a wheelbarrow.
Okay. Jordan says, sing the podcast as Bill Haljan.
How does he know? He must be an old employee.
I think he read my book.
Oh,
Probably read my book. Bill Haljan was a
He's
really
a great
fun
guy.
at Big Idea.
He was Crazy Pants guy, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
he's Crazy Pants guy. Nicola says, I'm writing you all the way from Little New Zealand. I recently discovered your podcast and I love it.
See, we're taking over the Southern Hemisphere.
I know we are so big in the Southern
That's right.
Hemisphere.
we need to take a trip, another trip.
I love it. I've been binge listening for the last couple of weeks, listening to all the old episodes. Take it easy. Take a break. Take a breath. Okay. You're going to get SAG minimum.
May get sick of us.
Thanks so much for doing this. I love eavesdropping on the conversations you have, and Skye and Christian are the perfect co-hosts. I have one problem, though.
Uh-oh.
The theme song is stuck in my head, and I can't get it out.
Join the club.
That's not a problem. That's how one of our listeners...
Speaking of, she sent me an email.
The one.
The
which
one
who survived?
The one who
the
survived.
bike ride
Yeah.
because of the...
So look at her name's Kelly Anderson.
Yeah,
right.
she survived her bike
She sent
ride.
me an email. This is what she said: Plinky Pete may have saved the day on my bike trip from hell this past summer. And then she put parenthetically, your comments to Phil on the podcast were spot on, by the way. Remember what I said?
Hang
no,
on.
what'd you say? I don't remember.
When I said that it was because death was on her heels, and so she was thinking about your song because it was so associated.
Life-giving.
No,
Life
because it was a fearful,
That's not what I remember
threatening
you
kind of. But she said that pales in comparison to what your recent devotionals have saved me from this Christmas season.
What? Wait, what?
That's awesome.
Clinky Pete has been usurped by the With God Daily devotional.
You know what? I
Makes me
echo
wanna
what
play
she
minor
said.
chords.
I've enjoyed the devotionals.
Yeah, and if you guys want to get the
holiday season.
devotionals this holiday season, we're dealing with all kinds of Advent themes. SkyeJatani.com. Get the devotional. And we are now open for group sales because I've had some
What
people.
does that even mean, Skye?
Some people have contacted me saying, how do I get like a group subscription for my whole church? And you have to email us directly. You can do that through my website, and we can work with you.
Can a family share?
$1 million.
Yeah, I mean,
Like can all of my, like if I buy one subscription, like with Apple now,
Yeah.
everybody gets an email in my family?
we don't have that set up, but I can do discounted. We're trying to figure out how to do that because so many people have told me we're using it as a whole family.
Yeah.
In the evening. Even our family's reading them now in the evening.
So you
which-
need a family plan.
So we do need to come up with a family plan, and I'm not sure how to exactly construct that. With
You are inadvertently providing devotions to your own family.
yeah. Well, here's what happened.
bet you didn't see that coming.
Amanda bought this book for devotions during Advent,
Yeah.
and we started doing it at dinner the other night. And some of the kids were kind of rolling their eyes about it because they weren't thrilled with the book.
Yeah.
And Amanda's like, "Hey, I'm trying here."
Right.
And then someone said, "Well, why don't we just do Dad's devotion?" And Amanda's like, "All right." So and then like
Did you have to subscribe then, or do you?
well,
get
I
it
already
for
get
free?
I already get it.
Okay.
But
You get it for
so,
free.
So this is what's really awkward though. Amanda's like, "Okay, Skye, why don't you read today's devotional?" So I read it off my iPhone.
Yeah.
And then at the end of
And you
it,
noticed some of your typos.
well, that happens.
Yeah, there have been typos. I was going to say.
that happens. But so then
You need a proofreader.
At the end of it, my daughter goes, "Nice job, Dad." I'm like, "Wait a minute." I'm not reading this to you for like feedback on it. This is supposed to help us. So I think there's this inability, there's this barrier where my own devotionals probably are
Right.
not going to be effective with my family.
Right, the prophet in his own
Something like that.
town. Yeah, it's like if I show a really moving piece of what's in the Bible to my kids, they say, "Nice job with the puppets." It's like, no, Jesus, kids.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Jesus. Yeah, it's the same problem.
How do you do the hand?
How'd you do that?
With at the same time as the guitar? No,
right.
kids.
Next one.
Okay.
This is fun.
Okay, it is fun, isn't it? Here's a little story for you. I think this is also from New Zealand. My friend met her husband because of you.
Oh my.
Okay, now you're
Now
gonna have to
you're a
top this,
matchmaker.
I will.
Skye.
I will.
She's a
If you
big-
guys have any marriage stories based on the devotional, let me know.
She's a big VeggieTales fan. 13 years ago, on her first day at university, she wore a VeggieTales t-shirt. I remember that it was green, so it was possibly Larry. Or a very moldy Bob t-shirt. Her husband-to-be was also a fan, and he went up to her and they started chatting. If it wasn't for that t-shirt or VeggieTales, they may never have met.
How about that? That's so sweet.
But after they get irises, they may not love each other anymore.
Okay, and then
Oh, this looks like a long one. I'm peering over here.
This is like the mailbag podcast.
I know it is. But now we need to talk about something a little more serious.
Uh-oh.
All right, let me buckle up.
Yep.
We had Dr. Gary Burge on the podcast.
He was quite controversial.
2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago. Skye was not here.
I did listen.
Oh, good.
Skye listened though, so he's up
Yes.
to date, and he explained his views on Israel, modern day Israel.
And to be clear, he is a New Testament scholar.
He is a New Testament
And so
scholar.
he's not just like some guy pontificating
He's
about
not
his
just
views.
A
guy.
professor at Wheaton College.
He's a very special guy.
He's an educated
He's
guy.
a scholar.
Yeah. And he spent a lot of time in the Middle East.
So some people really liked it, said thank you, that was important perspective, I'm glad to hear it. Other people really not liked it, and someone called him a hack, said he was a hack.
Wow.
Strong language. But I got a long email from Scott.
All right.
And Scott said, Dear Phil, I hold neither you nor your podcast responsible for the views held and expressed by Dr. Burge. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do, however, hold you responsible for having him on and being, in my opinion, wholly unprepared to talk intelligently with him about his views. I feel that you were blindsided by him without realizing you were blindsided, unless you agree with his views, which is another story.
Uh-oh.
You were wonderfully prepared for the interview with Dr. Boghossian, and I have tremendous admiration for your grasp of the topics you discussed with him and with your overall demeanor. Blah, 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 blah. You took quite seriously where he was coming from, having read and understood his book, not to mention many other books by atheists, etc. You recognize that he believes something diametrically opposed to what you believe, and or that the two of you see the world very differently. Did you read any of Dr. Burge's work? How is it that he came to be interviewed on your show? Did you realize beforehand that he believes things not just counter to the popular imagination with the church, as he phrased it, but counter to the text of both testaments?
Ooh. This is the crux of the matter, isn't it?
Them's fighting words.
Yeah, it is. How much time do we have left on this podcast?
Actually, we're about out of time. Okay. Good night.
Oh, that's just going to get more hate mail.
We had so much fun. Yeah, we had him on the show, actually, at the recommendation of my friend Skye.
I was conveniently overseas at the time.
It was conveniently out of the country for that time. I haven't read his books, but I knew roughly what he was going to talk about, and I thought it was an interesting perspective. Do I believe his views are diametrically opposed to what Scripture says? No, I don't. I think that people who come from a particularly dispensationalist point of view have a diametrically opposed interpretation of some passages. Not all evangelical Christians are dispensationalist. Am I correct in saying that, Skye?
Yes, you are. And to be fair, the controversy or theological debate about the role of the state of Israel in our faith is a very recent debate, because obviously the state of Israel has only been around since 1948.
We haven't had one to debate.
Exactly. So this is not something that goes down to the core doctrines of Christian faith historically. It's a very recent and frankly very American debate. And therefore I think there needs to be a lot of latitude given to people on this question. And I think it's an important one that scholars who know the Old New Testament engage. And I think Dr. Burge is doing that.
So what was kind of interesting is that as people reacted on the Facebook page, they tended to separate out into a couple of camps of complaint. One was he's not reading the Bible right. You know, Israel is in the end times. Israel is in eschatology. He's not reading, whatever passage. The other one that was very different was, well, then how are the Israelis supposed to protect themselves? If they don't do these things.
Which is a geopolitical question.
Yes,
It's not a theological one.
Not a theological. So
Right.
they tend to divide into theology and then politics. But they're firing rockets at them, so they have to defend themselves. And that wasn't really the issue. That
Right.
wasn't really what I was interested in. I was much more interested in, because I've been exposed to a lot of very strong dispensationalist theology about end times, and the Hal Lindsey books and the Left Behind books and the Joel Rosenberg books, where Israel is the center of everything at the end of history. So I wanted to bring on someone who I know doesn't hold that view, but is still within the world of respected centrist evangelical scholarship, which Dr. Burge is. So whether or not you agree with his interpretation of Scripture would be considered orthodox evangelical scholarship. Correct?
Yes. This comes down to, it's one of these topics on which Bible-centered Christians disagree, and that's okay. Now, there are some, and this gets almost like what we've done with the Genesis debate. There are some people for whom there is one interpretation. That's it. If you don't hold it, you're off the reservation. Similarly, there are those who think there's one view of Israel, and if you don't hold it, you're off the reservation. And historically, within the context of evangelicalism, that hasn't been the case.
Right.
There are multiple views on Genesis. There are multiple views on the role of Israel. These are not absolutely required conformist teachings of the church. It's not the same thing as saying
they're not in the creeds.
Right, they're not in the creeds.
Is in the creeds.
This is not about the deity of Christ. This is not about the bodily resurrection. This is not about the virgin birth. This is not about So we need
in the
to
essentials unity.
Exactly.
In all other things.
Hey, where'd you get
latitude.
that line? That's cool.
College Church.
Really?
Yeah, that's their motto.
That's a
and
good
all
line.
it's an essentials unity and all
I
other
did
things
not
liberty.
approach Gary Burge like I approached Peter Boghossian, because I know from the beginning Peter Boghossian is not within the world of Orthodox Christianity, and Gary Burge is. So I'm not going to take as much time to counter positions. I will counter positions that I know are beyond, so to speak, the pale of evangelicalism. Gary Burge's positions actually are not. So that may in and of itself be a controversial thing to say, but it is in fact true. Okay.
And what's your email address?
Oh, you guys know how to get a hold of me. And just to say that the rise, and we talked about this a little bit on that podcast, the rise of premillennial dispensationalism is a fairly modern thing, 19th century thing, the Schofield Bible, and it caught on and then really erupted when modern Israel was formed. And so just historically, we know that, this isn't something that people were talking about in the church 500 years ago. It wasn't an issue. And now it is, and that's okay. And there are a lot of things that are issues now, but they're beyond the scope of the creeds. They're beyond the scope of what makes us Christian. And so it's okay to disagree about them. And I have no problem putting someone on my podcast and letting them go unchallenged if I feel that they are within the realm of orthodoxy. Now, if Rob Bell was going to come on and say there's no such thing as hell, I would push back much harder than Gary Burge coming on and saying he doesn't connect modern Israel with historical Israel.
Well said.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
That being said, I think it would be awesome to have him back.
Yeah, we should have him back, but to talk about something else.
I would like him to talk. He's a scholar, particularly around Jesus' parables and understanding the parables in the context of Middle Eastern culture. So having him to describe some of the parables, I think, would be really cool.
Okay, we'll do that.
Have to do that.
Hey there, kids. Thanks for the mail. We know you think Gary Burge may be beyond the pale, but I don't quite agree, you see, because he's within the realm of evangelicality. That was fun. So we'll keep having people on the show. Some you might agree with, some you want to say no way, and that's okay because it makes for interesting conversation. So across the nation, we will keep at our station. We don't have a station because it's podcast, but that's okay. If on our
it rhymes. That's
time.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks for listening in, and give me some grace, and Gary Burge too, and all your friends that might not always agree with you. Okay. Bye. See you
Bye,
guys.
everybody.